Now,
Hey, good afternoon, everyone. Welcome back to Financial Literacy Week, powered by U Mortgage. It's a pleasure to be back for our second session of the day. For those of you joining us for the first time here in the Zoom webinar, there's a few tools available to you. You have features like a chat with you. There's currently a question in the chat. Let us know where you're from and the silliest purchase you've ever put on a credit card. Really topical with our session here, taking control of debt. Also, at any time, use the chat and the Q&A, those tabs there, to ask any questions as the session pops up. I'll be monitoring them and then feeding them to Stacy, our presenter here at the end of the session. But it is also a pleasure to have Stacy with us today. She is from Mass Mutual Greater Philadelphia, and she is going to be our expert here presenting on taking control of debt. So, Stacy, welcome. I'll pass it to you to kick things off for us.
hi there. Good afternoon. Welcome to this session on taking control of debt. My name is Anastasia Kingsbury. I'm with Mass Mutual Greater Philadelphia, and I'm on a team that does comprehensive financial planning. One of the first things that we do is we take a look at our clients' overall picture, what they're spending money on. They do a budget for us in our first meeting, and then we take a look at where they can cut costs and save on debt payments. I've had clients that refinance their mortgage and were able to save hundreds of dollars a month, or change their health insurance for business owners, and they were able to save some money there, but also take a look at their credit card debt. And I have a client that was able to save $300 a month by renegotiating their credit card debt. So it's really important to kind of get a whole financial picture, and that's one of the things that we do. And we talk about your goals for the future and what you want your financial life to look like, whether it's paying for your children's education or your own education or saving for retirement. We take a look at the whole thing, but we start with your monthly budget and see where your money goes in and out. I did pose a question on the in the chat room to see what the silliest purchase somebody has made on their credit card. Ryan, I'm not able to see the chat questions.
Nothing coming in yet, but I highly encourage people, those here in the room, what are those? What's the silliest thing to put on a credit card?
So I actually have a client that was at a golf fundraiser, and they are a big New York Giants fan. And one of the things auctioned off was a dinner with Saquon Barkley. So this was just a couple years ago. So this person was very excited about it, and I think feeling pretty good from the beverages that were served, and decided to put this auction item on their credit card. It was $2,000 for a dinner with Saquon Barkley. And when I heard about it, I was just like, and he was saying, well, it's for charity. And I said, but you really shouldn't, you don't really have that type of extra money. And he said, oh, I'm going to have dinner with Saquon. Well, sure enough, he spent the $2,000 and there were hundreds of people. He saw Saquon for mere minutes, but I guess he does have a photo of it. But I would say that that was one silly purchase. And I think for him, it was an impulse and it was emotional. And it might have been a little bit influenced by the fun he was having. So that was one silly purchase that I can share with you. Is there any others that anybody wants to share?
We did have one person privately message me to say for this one. So they said everything they put on their credit card in Las Vegas. They said they
Las Vegas, yeah. Wouldn't it be
budget.
nice? Wouldn't it be nice if it just stayed in Las Vegas? Yeah, sometimes people, they have this they have their credit card and they think it's just free money, and they forget about the bill that's going to come at the end of the month. But sometimes people will go, I've been guilty of this myself, actually, shopping at Costco, and you get a basket full of groceries, and then you're just too tired to make dinner, and then you say, okay, I'm going to take out after you just spent money at Costco, and then taking out dinner because you're too lazy me personally, too lazy to make dinner. But anyway, okay, so let's just, is there any more that anybody wanted to share? I'm sure there's some good ones out there. Some of them I just
coming through at the moment, so I think we're
nothing
good.
Coming through. Okay, so we're going to start with this presentation, Taking Control of Debt. I want to thank you for attending, and I commend you for taking a look at this. And I'm going to share with you some strategies that we've come up with on taking control of debt. It's all personal choice to you, and I have to get through the legalese here. I am not a tax or legal professional, so I'm not registered to offer that type of advice, but I do have some good ideas and some things for you to think about as far as taking control of your debt. So we're going to start the discussion on what is financial well-being. The Consumer Financial Protection Bureau rates it as having control over day-to-day and month-to-month finances, and having the capacity to absorb a financial shock, such as, if you have an injury, or if you have a car. Just the other day, actually, I had car repairs that were something I wasn't expected. Or as a homeowner, you might have, a hot water heater that goes, or something that you need to spend money on that you weren't planning on. That's why one thing that we definitely recommend is that you have emergency resources. Usually we say between 3 to 6 months of emergency resources so that you can absorb a financial shock. Another thing, you want to be on track to meet your financial goals, such as saving for retirement, vacation homes, or paying for children's or your own education. The other thing would be having financial freedom to make choices that allow you to enjoy life. As I mentioned, I have clients that were able to save money on their mortgage. So with that extra savings, I said, oh, enjoy it a little bit. And they were able to have date nights that they hadn't had in a while because they were kind of strapped. One thing that I highly recommend is that you frequently look over your budget and see where your money is going and ways that you can save. It's good with UMortgage. I know the rates are now up again, but always kind of keeping an eye on whether it makes sense to refinance or look at your credit card debt and try to renegotiate, because you want to be able to make the most of the money that you earned, your hard-earned money. You want to be able to use it in the way that you see fit, and not just based on, not just spend it on interest rates. Okay, so if you feel like you're a little bit strapped, you're not alone. The total owed by the average U.S. household carries this type of debt. So student loan debt is large, is a big component of this. The average is $58,000. And then auto loans, a lot of people like to have a new car every 3 years. I'm not one of them. I don't like having a car loan. I love when my car is paid off. And credit card debt. I'm actually to be honest, from some of my clients, I'm surprised. This number looks a little bit low based on what I've seen lately, but still a lot of people carry some credit card debt. So you're not alone. I'm glad that you're taking a look into ways that you can take control of your debt. So how we're going to plan out our day today is we're going to talk about understanding your debt. You need to classify your debt, and then you create a debt payment plan that meets your needs. And it's going to be something that you're going to be able to follow and feel good about without feeling strapped or without feeling that you're not able to enjoy the money that you earned. So you're going to find a way to balance your debt and your financial goals. It's a good idea to save while you're paying off your debt. You got to figure out what your ultimate financial goals are and ways to pay off your debt by still contributing to your goals and getting where you want to go. Okay, so I mentioned earlier that, I don't know, to move this, sorry, that I have a client that bought a night with Saquon Barkley that didn't turn out to be what he thought. But he spent $2,000 on the purchase. And one thing you have to do is take a look at what your true cost of your debt is. So this $2,000 purchase, if his average interest rate right now for credit cards is 15%. So if he just paid the minimum of $50 each month, it took him 4.5 years to pay it off, and he paid an additional $1,100 on that debt. So that was definitely a silly purchase. So something you got to think about. It wasn't what he thought it would be, and it wound up costing him a lot more than he thought it would. So these are things that you have to factor your true cost of debt and putting things on your credit card. So you have to understand what your debt. So be clear about your interest rate. Is it variable or is it fixed? Will it stay the same throughout the terms of your loan, or will it fluctuate with the market? Sometimes there's hidden fees, or there's some debt goes with what the current interest rates are. You have to understand what your loan is and what the terms of it are. So you also take time to really understand and calculate the true cost of your debt and know the terms of your debt. Is there a fee for prepaying? Is there a penalty for paying off your loan early? That's something that you totally want to understand with your debt. Okay, so you want to classify your debt. There is such thing as good debt as well as bad debt. So good debt would be something that contributes to your net worth, such as your education, your mortgage, your home buying is a great thing to own your own home. More often than not, it's not guaranteed, but more often than not, the value of your home does increase, and you get equity in your equity from your mortgage loan that you can use for things. So a mortgage is a good debt. A business debt would also be a good debt. Bad debt would be credit cards or costly vacations that you can't afford, or impulse purchases. The Saquon Barkley dinner was definitely an impulse purchase that I think, as I said, was probably influenced by the atmosphere. So you want to classify your debt and have a true understanding of it and the interest rates and all that. So I'm having trouble moving my. So a good idea is to take a look at all your debt that you have. Like I said, it's good to do a budget each month and see where your money is going. So you rank your debts by priority, which debts have the highest interest rates, which ones have the smallest balances, which one have the highest minimums, and which ones can help you build credit, and which ones are good debt or bad debt. So it's good to kind of classify how your debt is based on your all the loans that you have out and the credit cards, and take a whole look at the whole picture and classify it into these different categories. So the only way to truly know, the only way to truly take control and build a momentum is you want to strike a balance with your other goals so that you can see the light at the end of the tunnel. Like you start paying off, it might seem monumental, but you got to tick away, and you start to see some success, and it helps with building the momentum and getting things paid off. There's quite satisfaction in getting some debts paid off and feeling good about yourself and your financial situation. So first you want to take control. The lack of feeling in control contributes to an ever increasing levels of debt. People feel like it's just too much to deal with, so they just close their eyes and just ignore it. But a plan helps you build momentum like any endeavor, and success breeds more success, and the momentum starts to build. A good debt payment plan has to be meaningful to you, one that you can follow, and that helps with your financial goals. A good debt management plan helps you see the light at the end of the tunnel. So you start paying things off, and there's a sense of success, and you want to keep going. So one thing, as I mentioned, you want to I don't know what happened here. Take a look at your budget and see what you can afford as far as paying off your debt. A good target to set is to pay 20% or less from your household income on your debt, because you want to be able to pay off your debts and have some savings for your goals. So a good idea is to tackle one debt at a time. So when one debt is eliminated, you can move to the next debt priority. So take a look. Some people take a look at what the highest minimum payment is. Some people say, okay, maybe I'll just go with the lowest interest rate just to kind of tackle something small. It's totally a personal choice, and what you and possibly your partner feel is the best for your financial situation. So a good thing to do is to develop a timeline and stick to it. So you're going to take a look at all your debt, all the payment amounts, and the due date, and you can do a spreadsheet to see your projected end date. As I mentioned, there's a few different philosophies. Some people take a look at a loan with the highest minimum payment to start first, and then tackle that one. Here's an example here. So the loan payment, they went with the highest minimum payment, paid off that debt, and then went to the second highest, and then the third highest. So they have a timeline for how long these will be paid off. That's their light at the end of the tunnel. And the situations change. Sometimes you come into a bonus, or you change jobs, or you get a raise, and then you're able to pay more into those different debts. But so I recommend starting with the highest minimum payment, but whatever your personal preference would be, is something that you want to think about, and it's going to be something that you can actually stick to. So another thing is, as I mentioned, you want to save while you're paying off your debt. So you want to take advantage of the compounding growth and future income. So one thing, here's an example. Somebody decides to pay off their debt, $200 worth of debt each month, but they're saving while they're paying off the debt. I'm going to show you two examples here. I can't see them in that. So what we recommend is paying off your debt while contributing to your savings, because you want to take a look at your overall financial goals. Because here's an example of somebody two different clients that one paid off their debt with, shoot, I don't know how to go back here. Sorry. I'm going to have to restart here. I'm going to show you two different examples of paying off debt and saving as well as saving. So we have an example of a client who paid off $200 towards their debt and then started saving. It took them 6 years, and then in the 7th year they started saving that $200. So in that year they had $2,400 in savings. But here's another example, the same debt. So instead of paying the whole $200 towards it per month, they started saving $25. And as you can see, in year 7, they have $3,130 versus the $2,400. So that's what I'm trying to say is you want to be able to pay off your debt, but still take advantage of savings and compounding interest. So some people are surprised when they see that. They think, oh, I just want to pay off the debt. But you want to remember your ultimate financial goals, and taking advantage of compounding interest is one way to get to your financial goals. So one thing you want to do is take a look at how you got into debt. Like I was saying, was it impulse purchases? Was it a little bit of laziness? Was it a little bit of emotion? Was it, like, for me personally, I've been invited to participate in a lot of different charities, and we take credit cards, and you feel bad because you want to be able to contribute, but you have to remember what your budget is and what you can afford, because you might put, like I said, that gentleman put $2,000 on a credit card, and a few years down the road, it turns into $3,100. So it's something to really think about how you got into the debt. You want to change any bad spending habits. Are you just doing takeout because you're too lazy to make dinner? Or are you going to Starbucks because you didn't feel like making coffee? Or are you, not buying lunch out every day? It's something that you have to really think about, what your monthly budget is, where your money is going in and out. Sometimes you don't think, like I said, we start with a monthly budget, and people are really surprised at where their money goes. So it's a good idea to kind of be on top of where you're spending your money each month, and then kind of take control of what's a frivolous expense or what's a needed expense, and what you can afford to be able to change, like bringing your lunch to work every day instead of going out to lunch, or bringing a coffee instead of going to Starbucks. So you want to change bad spending habits. You want to minimize taking on any new debt. Sometimes you feel like, I already have this mountain of debt. Why not just keep it going? But that's not the way to think about it. You want to take control of your debt and really minimize taking on anything new. You could renegotiate where you can. Actually, I just called my credit card company the other day. I was in a promotional interest rate that had expired, and I didn't realize it. So I called the credit card company, and I was able to renegotiate. If you're a good client, they're going to want to negotiate with you. Companies want to get paid. So if you you can contact anybody and see if you can negotiate a payment plan wherever you can. And then you're going to want to build your credit history and manage your credit score. It's a good idea to keep tabs on where your credit score is, and if there's any discrepancies, such as late payments, that you can explain away. Sometimes credit card companies will be able to correct that on a credit score. So make sure you're aware of any kind of blemishes that might be on your credit score, and take care of them if you have a good excuse, or if there's a way to get that removed from your record. And then you got to make sure you save. Like I said, it's your whole financial picture and your whole financial future. So balance is a key to financial well-being. You want to pay off any debts, but you want to make sure you're saving, and make sure that you're going towards your goals. So you want to have an overall picture of what your financial future is going to look like and what your goals are. So as I said, you want to take a look at all your debt and classify it, and see what makes sense for you in paying it off, what makes you feel comfortable. You want to be able to try to renegotiate any interest rates that you can. You are also going to want to save, because you're thinking about your long-term financial goal. And as I said, one thing that we do is we take a look at our clients' overall picture, and we take a look at their overall picture and where they're spending their money, and we help them save in any way that we can. So as part of this as part of this presentation, I'm offering a free individual session if you wanted to use this QR code and get access to my calendar, and we can have a complimentary conversation about where your finances are and what your goals are and how we can help achieve them. I've had, as I mentioned, when I take a look at somebody's overall budget, I try to find ways where they can save money and reallocate to what their goals are. I have clients that didn't start saving for their daughter's college education until she was in 8th grade, and they were wondering, oh, how are we going to do this? But we were able to have them, they refinanced their mortgage, they renegotiated their credit card debt, and the gentleman was able to renegotiate his, find a different health plan for his business. So we found savings in different areas, and we're able to reallocate the money they were spending on those things into savings for their child's education. So I'd be very happy to talk to any one of you. Feel free to use this QR code to access our calendar. As I said, I'm on a team of 6 different financial professionals that all have expertise in different areas, and we'd love to talk to you about it. So are there any questions?
Yeah, Stacey, actually quite a few questions have come in, so hopefully get your guidance on these a little bit. So one of the first questions that came in is, will I get stuck with family members' debt after possible like death or anything, or vice versa?
If you're listed as the, if you're a co-signer on their loan, absolutely.
Okay, so if it's just like somebody like a parent, but they're not only loan, but they had like racked up their own debt, you're not on to that kind of thing.
The creditors are going to try to come after you. That happens all the time, and some people fear that it's going to affect their credit rating. So some people do pay. Some people fear it, and they do. I have a client that didn't realize that they didn't have to pay it because it was not their debt. But yeah, the creditors are going to come looking for you. They're going to look to get paid in any way they possibly can. So they're going to track down any known relatives. That's their objective. They have there's firms that go out and try to find, they try to find relatives that are going to pay, and some people do pay even though they're not legally required to. So.
Right. Good to know. Thank you, Stacey. So a few more questions, and there's still plenty of time for questions in the chat. So you can throw them in the chat. Just here that we've been using, there's also that Q&A tab. So those are options both available to you that you can still use. So I highly encourage, if you have any questions, please feed them in, but I'll go through some of the rest here. So somebody asked a question, what's the effect of like bankruptcy? Say they just feel so over their head in debt. Like, what is that a good path, or is it better to try to take it on and try to pay
that? Ideally, you try to work with your creditors before filing for bankruptcy, because if filing for bankruptcy is going to affect you for 7 years. I do have a friend of mine who was going through a divorce, and they had major financial difficulties, and I recommended to her that they worked with their bank, their mortgage company, and all their creditors. They unfortunately racked up a lot of debt. She had about $30,000 in credit card debt and wound up only having to pay $10,000 back. The creditors are interested in getting payment. Sometimes it's just a small percentage of what's owed, but they want to get the payment. They don't want you to have to declare bankruptcy. So I would try to work with any of your creditors. I see Kathleen had a good point that instead of putting a hot water heater on a credit card, she was able to work with the company that came out and did it. That's a good thing to think about, instead of just saying, I just put it on the credit card. You try to work with, like for me, with my my automobile repair, I was able to work with the mechanic and the owner and work with him instead of putting it on my credit card. But sometimes you don't have that option, but it's always worth asking. It's always worth asking.
Yeah, it's a good point. Asking about if there's any like repayment plans, usually a little bit better than putting it on a credit card, which might high interest rates. Actually, so there's a couple more questions, and the one topic you actually talked about relates to one of the questions in the queue here, and about kind of credit card debt. is, sometimes if you feel like you're struggling to pay off your credit cards, is it a good idea to take out one of those, like another credit cards that says like, okay, it's an interest-free credit card for a year, you can place your debt on that? Or is it better to try to work with the creditor?
Well, I would initially try to work with your creditor because they're not going to want to lose you. But I have in the past switched over to a low interest and paid it off, and then got rid of that credit card. But it depends. I mean, I would initially, because they're not going to want to lose you as a client, and they know, that there's other offers out there, they might want to work with you. So it would be better to start with your actual credit card company that you currently have the debt with.
Yeah, that's good to know. And I have one more question in my queue, and thanks to you, Stacy, for taking on these questions, and thank you for everybody for asking. We can still keep them coming in. One that came to me is, can I ever be in legal trouble for debt if I'm working to pay it back? Like, is there ever any like legal ramifications to this?
There can be. Usually it would take a while. If you're working to pay it back, then no. I mean, that's something that you'd have to be fully aware of, what the loan or the creditor, what the fine print is for the loan that you've taken out. But if you just ignore a creditor, they can try to garnish your wages. I've had that happen to a client of mine. They weren't aware. They just said, "Oh, I didn't feel like paying for it," and it was a medical. It was funny because it was a medical fee that they thought, oh, well, they thought it was an issue with their insurance company, and they got multiple notifications. It does take quite a while for that to happen, but if you're not responding and not paying, they can find a way to garnish your wages. So yes, it could, but it sounded like the person is in the process of paying. So if you're in good faith making some type of payment, they should not take any legal action towards you.
That's good. Good to know. Thank you, Stacy. So any other questions? I got through the queue that some questions that came to me, but currently I've gone through all the questions. So just want to reach out one more time to our chat. Anybody can throw anything in. Is there any questions? Even comments or observations. I know that's kind of like a tricky subject, and many people think about this. Whether it's like your student loans, that and you're taking on a mortgage, things like that. Seem like that. Like, so is there any other questions, comments, observations from our group?
So even with as I said, with the mortgages and even with the student loans, you can try to renegotiate. There's different agencies out there that help you try to get a lower interest rate on student loans if you qualify. Certain professions qualify for special rates. Right? Physicians is one of them. So that's something that you should always kind of keep your eyes and ears open to, different payment plans available, and renegotiating is a big thing. Some people,
Yeah, that actually sparked a question that came to me. Is there a limit to how many times like you could refinance? Like something like a student loan?
Oh, not to my knowledge. Is there a limit to how many times you can refinance your student loan? I would say no, but I don't know for sure. I would not think so.
Okay. Yeah, it makes sense. I think that's a really good point. Rates are changing all the time,
right.
In the last year or so, 2 years even. I think that's a really good question to put out there. It's like, it's something to keep an eye on, right?
Well, that's why you have to make sure you're fully aware of the terms of your contract, because some contracts do have a prepayment penalty. So then it might not be worth refinancing if there's going to be a big penalty involved. So that's the thing. When you're signing off on a contract, make sure you read the fine print.
Yeah, that's a really good point about reading it. Even though sometimes I guess it can seem like a novel with some of the terms and conditions that come with it, is a good idea, especially with big purchases like student loans or big things you're taking on, like student loans, mortgages, to really read through those things and make sure you understand what you're getting yourself into.
Right.
Awesome.
Right.
All right, I'll put it out there for one last call. Is there any other questions? There have been some great questions that come through, and thanks, Stacy, for taking them on so graciously.
And nobody thought of any silly purchases? I know Las Vegas was a good one.
Yeah, I like that. Let's see if we can revisit that. Anybody thinking through this? Like, why did I put that on my credit card? Why did I do that?
So this is a little scary, but I had somebody who was thinking about getting cosmetic surgery, thinking about taking money out of their 401k. And I said, no, do not do that. She's only in her 40s, but and it just kind of boggles my mind that somebody would even think of going into debt for that type of expense. So yeah, that to me sounded silly because, as I said, there'll be there's penalties in taking it out of your 401k. Then she said, "Oh, I could put it on my credit card." And I was, well, I don't. That's not something I would recommend. So it's good to be financially smart about things and what really is worth spending on.
Yeah, and proving the point there. Good to have the financial advisor, someone to talk to about some of those decisions you're making, whether this is a good idea or not. So Stacey does have her code here on the screen. For those of you who maybe aren't familiar with QR codes, you can take, if you have a newer iPhone, all you have to do is open up the camera and hover it over that, and then it'll pop up a link you can click on. And that is access to Stacey's calendar there, and you can schedule some time with her if you'd like to meet with her about potentially her becoming a financial advisor, just a chance to talk and have an individual session. Her information is also there. Email and phone number is on the left-hand side of the screen. So I didn't see any more questions come in. I think we got a lot of really good questions asked. So I'm really happy to see that as well. Fortunately, we're going to have Stacey come back here at the top of the hour at 2 o'clock, and we're going to go through a very relevant topic to everybody right now. It's taxes and some of the topics revolving around that. So that'll be a new link to join that webinar for that session. So when you do head out, go to either our registration page or email. It's been communicated to you multiple ways ago. Find that and then jump in that session later. But before I wrap up, Stacey, is there anything left you'd like to add?
I want to thank everybody for attending, and I hope you got some good ideas. It's all personal choice, and you got to figure out what makes the most sense to you. But I gave you a few different strategies. So thank you for attending, and thank you to Ryan for this opportunity.
Yeah, thank you, Stacey, for joining so much. I'm looking forward to our next session so much. And thank you, everybody who showed up. This wouldn't be possible without people showing up too, and getting to really learn about this. Remember, we're posting a lot of recordings over the weekend. So if you join this session, you're like, hey, this would be good for my friend, my family member, my loved one, my partner. Pass them this information. They can still sign up. They can still register, and then see Stacey's session over the weekend. And see that recording later on. So thank you everyone for joining again. We'll see you in about 25 minutes for our next session. So we'll go ahead and wrap things up. But again, thank you.
Thank you. Take care.